So here we go. 9-1. We're only doing the first half of 9-1 today. So 9-1A. And it's kind of the like umbrella lesson. Okay. This is the introduce you to all of what we're going to do in this chapter. Not all of, a lot of what we're going to do in this chapter. I
think we did this last year.
In algebra? Reflections and rotations.
Yeah.
Well, we're not doing rotations. Reflections and line reflections. So what we're doing, the whole thing is called
What?
transformations.
What?
But we're just gonna focus on a couple different transformations. Okay, I'll tell you what the basic ones are. And kind of the terminology that goes along with it. But these are transformations, okay? Changes. A transformation is a change that happens. So they say it's a mapping. They'll say something maps onto something else. It started as this. It maps onto something else. It results in the change in position. So where it is. Or a change in the shape of the object. Or the size of the object. Okay, so it might change position, it might change shape, it might change size. Mostly what we're going to focus on is changing position. We'll do one thing at the end of the chapter that changes size. We will never change the shape of our figure. Okay, it will always, if it was a triangle, it'll end as the same basic triangle. So the three like basic transformations that
30, 60, 90 angle.
Kind of looks like a 30, 60, 90. I don't know if it is. The first one is a flip, okay? A flip is always going to have a line of reflection. We'll learn about those later. But some line that it flips over, right? So if this flips over this line, you end up with, and you guys that are in Notability, you can just copy it, and I think Notability will flip it for you, won't it? So if it flips over, notice what happened. Now this corner that was bottom left is now bottom right. Okay, so it flips over. It's like a reflection, right? You look in the mirror and your left eye now is on the other side when you're looking at it, right?
Or when you look in the mirror and your words are like completely
Yes,
opposite.
you put something in a mirror and the words are backwards, okay? So that's a flip. A reflection is the fancier term for that. This one, the turn, we're not actually going to do a rotation. They require tools and compasses and protractors, and we're not going to do that in this chapter. But a turn is just going to do a rotation. So it starts there and it ends something like this. Okay, so that's a turn. And then the last one is a slide. It says it translates. That's a translation. That's the first one that we'll cover. But it's basically just sliding to a new spot. So it's going to look the same. But it just, like this one just slid down and to the right. Okay, that's a slide. So I would say translations are the easiest one. That's probably why they start with it first. But yeah,
Wait, Shul's not out.
I'm just
taking notes.
Well, I'll get.
Yeah.
I really want to submit this before.
Wait, Shul's not out?
Okay, so a couple terms to know. We're going to talk a lot about a pre-image versus an image, okay? What does pre-image make you think? What does pre mean? Before. Okay, so the pre-image is the starting one, okay? It's your first figure or the original. Okay, the original figure. So the figure you start with is called your pre-image. What it becomes, we'll call it the new figure. Or you could say the resulting figure. Okay, is called the image. So when they say, what is the image of some figure? They're saying, what did it become after you did the translation or the reflection or the glide reflection or the dilation? Okay, last term, and then we'll do some work with them.
I'm trying to log into my Apple ID.
What?
That's not cool.
It just says right now.
Oh.
Should I accept them?
No, probably not. Last thing is called a rigid motion. And that means that a transformation will preserve distance.
I said don't.
Oh, good. An angle measure. Okay. Here's another way of saying a rigid motion. A rigid motion is something that stays the same size. Okay. In other words, it's not a like fluid motion, right? When you think fluid motion, you think like, oh, it's got some like flimsiness to it, right? A rigid motion is like, ugh, my arms are rigid. I slid it over, nothing changed, right? So stays the same size. Okay, so look at these two pictures. It asks the question, does this transformation appear to be a rigid motion? So the pre-image is what you're starting with, and it is sliding over to right here and gives us our image. Do you think that is a rigid motion?
Yes.
Why?
Because it stays the same size.
It's the same size. So we would say yes because they are the same size. That is a rigid motion. So what about B then? No, it got bigger, right? So is that a rigid motion? No, it got bigger, or you can say it changed size. So rigid motion just has to stay the same size. Okay, now here's a couple symbols that you're gonna see in this chapter. So I wanna make sure you understand what they are. When you see an arrow, you're gonna think maps onto. So whenever you see an arrow pointing to the right, that means maps onto. So they're gonna say like triangle ABC and then put an arrow, triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So they're saying this triangle ABC mapped onto or became ABC prime, okay? Which is where prime comes into play, God bless you. Prime is gonna be like a little apostrophe. What?
Why did you say bless you?
You didn't sneeze?
No, I said, what?
Did you sneeze?
No.
I thought you went like this.
Hearing the voices too now.
Yeah, the voice.
Oh, you went like this. It was this with. Okay, so prime, truant.
Mr. Hamilton knows about like voices.
Okay, prime is represented with this little like apostrophe. Okay, if you look here, these are all prime. This is J prime is how you would say that, or Q prime is how you would say that. So when it has that little apostrophe by it, that's prime, okay? Here's the deal with this. Stop talking. The primes are always your new figure, okay? So whenever you see prime with something, you should think, that's my image. If there is no prime with it, that's your pre-image. You with me, gentlemen?
The word
Okay.
is just throwing me off.
Well, move on.
I can't.
Wait, the K is a prime too?
Logan Paul.
What?
The K is a prime too?
The K would be prime also, yeah. I'm just telling you how to name it. You say Q prime. That's how
So
you
it's just
say
if
what
it's
you
in
see
a
there.
Different color or something?
I mean, sometimes it's a different color, but if it has the little apostrophe is what you're looking for,
Oh, I totally forgot.
right? Okay, so like, look at this. It says triangle ABC. What do you say for this arrow?
Like maps onto.
Maps onto. Triangle ABC maps onto triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So they're saying here's a triangle, right? ABC, and it's going to become this triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay? You don't need to worry about how it became that yet. We'll get there. Right now, they just want to know what are the images of the different pieces. So what is the image of angle A? A is the pre-image, right? Here's my pre-image. What's the image of it in this figure?
A prime.
A prime, right? So you would say the images would be A prime, and what's the image of angle B?
B prime.
B prime. So B becomes B prime.
Oh.
Okay? So then they say, okay, and then what are the corresponding sides? So if I say AB in this figure, what side does that correspond to in the other figure?
A prime and B prime.
A prime, B prime. Okay, so BC would correspond to B prime, C prime, and AC would correspond to A prime, C prime. Okay, so you're just matching up corresponding sides. We've done that before, right? It's just they didn't have the prime with them before. I think this is actually easier than what we've done before because they're the
This is
same letters,
easier.
right?
Jeez.
Same letters. So you're just matching up the pieces. Okay?
Maybe if I paid attention
That's all we're doing
in 5th grade math.
for this first one.